this started here. Once you choose what box you want to start with, like this would be a really easy one. A lot of times people start out with the outside, or you know, you can go top, bottom, left, right. You can do a one row at a time. It doesn't matter. But I'm going to count over. So this is the 5th box over. So I have to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Make sure that you're putting it in the right box so you don't have to go back and erase. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that is where I'm going to put this one little line. That's all that's in that one. So that's pretty easy. But this is where you can give yourself guidelines. And again, if you draw it like this, it might seem like it's taking a long time at first, but your drawing will go so much faster if you draw one box at a time than if you try to just eyeball it. All right, and by doing those guidelines, I can see, I'm sorry, I know this is moving around a lot with the shadows. By putting those guidelines in, I can see that all of this line, like none of this line goes above halfway in this box. So this line can't be up here on my paper. Okay, so let those guidelines tell you where things need to go as well. You can even show yourself where they do start and stop and put that on the paper as well, if that helps. And it does help me. So the majority of the time, if I do come over and help you, this will be the number one thing I do. And then I'm going to sketch very lightly. If you can't even see it from where you're sitting, I'm probably doing a good job. Okay, you want it to be really, really light. I'll stand back and let it catch up there. You want it to be really light, and you want to just limit yourself. I didn't continue through to the next box just because I know it's the hood and it keeps going. I stopped. I'm drawing one box at a time. Let yourself do that. This is a really easy example. So if I were to skip down to something more complicated like the eye, if you look at her eye, it goes through 2 different boxes. Okay, so number one, one of the number one things I hear all the time is people saying, I am having trouble drawing the eye, I'm having trouble drawing the nose, I'm having trouble drawing the mouth. And you're not talking about one specific box then, you're talking about the whole feature. So you need to, when you're in that situation, you need to realize, okay, I'm only going to draw everything I see in that box. When I'm happy with that box and how it fits, I'm going to move to the next one. Don't worry about drawing the eye through 2 different boxes. It will fit together. It will match up like a puzzle when you're done if you do it this way. Okay? And oftentimes people will even try to draw it upside down if they get really stuck. So now if I'm doing this, this is 4E. So I need to go over 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And this is where you especially need to be careful that you're not drawing stuff in the wrong box, which sometimes it helps then to have done all the outside edges first so you know where the border of the body is, or the border of the face. But that's not as difficult, so I want to show you a part that's actually difficult and that most people struggle with. All right, so I've got that box right here. I know that, you might need to erase from box to box on your viewfinder, and that's all right. But when looking at this, I'm just going to take one line at a time because there's still a lot going on in this box. So I'm just going to start with this line, this crease, and look at how far up it is, how far above halfway it is. I'm going to say about right here-ish. And I'm also going to recognize that it doesn't cross, any further to the right of halfway at all. So I know that that crease can't go all the way over here because this is halfway. And if you need to make that line go all the way through, that's fine. All right, so again, I'm going to make mistakes. Everybody's going to make mistakes. So I'm going to sketch really lightly just because I want to make sure that I can fix it if I need to, when I need to. All right, same with the bottom of the eye. With eyes, a lot of times people start drawing one line and then they finish drawing another because so many of the lines are so close. If you notice or if you look at your picture, you might see the line where the white of your eye actually runs into your eyelid, and then there might be a completely different line next to it where your eyelashes start, okay? And a lot of times we start drawing one of those and end drawing the other because we just forget which one we were looking at. So really focus on one line at a time to avoid running into that problem. And this eye barely goes past halfway, like the corner of the eye just barely comes out to about right here. You can give yourself all these little guideline marks as long as you're doing them light enough that you can erase and not see them later. I'm just going to look at one at a time. And again, keep it as simple as possible. Just like the still life, we tried to find recognizable shapes and recognizable angles. It's the same thing here. Try to simplify it and just see the most simple angle possible before starting. Don't worry about it. If you think about it being an eye, you're going to draw a football shape. If you think about analyzing one section of the eye and looking at one part of one line, you're going to start drawing a realistic eye instead of a football. Okay? And that is why this is so effective of a technique for drawing one kids. And drawing the shape of the shadows as well. So I see a shadow right here where it gets a little bit grayer, a little bit darker gray, so I'm going to draw that in while I'm there. I'm also going to draw in this edge right here. And you know, in this case, I'm lucky because I do know what the subject is. I do know what I'm drawing. Whereas with your art graph, you didn't. So it's a little confusing and it's a little hard to trust whatever it is in that box that you're drawing. But now, so now you kind of have to keep yourself from cheating because you know what you're drawing doesn't mean you should just draw an eye real quick and whip it out. Everybody's eye is different. Every line is going to be different. Your pictures are all taken at very different angles, different lighting, different things in them, different expressions. Everybody's is going to be different. Okay, so you don't want that symbol of an eye, like we talked about symbols at the beginning of the term. You don't want that simplistic view of a football shape that a kindergartner can do, okay? Maybe not kindergarten. We'll say third grade. All right? So the other thing is, while I'm here, I do see a really light gray shadow right here. I know it's the eye socket, but that's just, again, because I have done this a million times. I know what I'm drawing. And I'm going to draw in the shape of that shadow as well. So it's not a feature, it's not an eye, it's not a eyebrow. It's just an odd little shadow, and I want to draw that in now so that I know what shape it's in and where it's going to go, and that's it. I know it looks funny right now. I know it doesn't look right, and that's okay. You're going to end up, if you're doing it right, you're going to end up with splotches all over your face like that. Same with within that iris. There's a darker part that I want to get in. I'm going to sketch that in right now. Just really lightly, just so I know where that darker shadow is going to go later. Okay, and then I'm pretty happy with that box, so now I'm going to move on to the next one, which is a lot trickier. One thing you'll find, too, is when you're drawing your nose, you're going to hate it. Everybody hates drawing their nose. They think that it's so big. But you're drawing, look at the size of the paper. You're drawing a very large picture of your face. Everything should be big, okay? And if you try to draw it too small because you just don't want your nose to look big, it will look goofy. You won't look right. Your proportions will be totally off. You'll have these big eyes and this tiny little nose and big head and a tiny little nose. Not that the nose should take over the whole drawing, but don't worry about it. Don't be so self-conscious about it. Everybody's nose is going to be, you need it to be the right size. Just trust. And here's the other thing. This grid isn't lying to you. It's not telling you, like if you look at this box, this is a baby. She's got a cute little button nose, and look at how much of that box is taken up by her nose. It's going, you know, the grid is telling you exactly where it's supposed to go. It's not making it up. It's not trying to make you look worse. It doesn't have an agenda. It's not a personality. It's just a grid. It's telling you exactly where it needs to go, so trust it. All right? I know that's funny and I know that's hard, but I'm serious. And then I do the same thing, and I'm going to find points where I think it should start. Luckily for me, they're lining up. Sometimes they won't, and you'll have to use this time to adjust and fix. Here's a good example. I'm not going to count. I'm not going to say the eye goes all the way out to here because it doesn't. You know what? I'm going to zoom in for you. All right. I'm not going to say that the eye doesn't go all, or that the eye does go all the way out to here. It doesn't. There's like a little crease there. So I'm only going to worry about the eye in this little area right here. So it should end before, like the corner of the eye does come just before halfway through the box. So I'm going to give myself a little guideline there. And about how far up? Oh, right there. And you know, you guys, like I said, I'll say this many times. I'm your teacher and I'm going to make mistakes. I will need to erase some of these things. So don't be, you know, if you get through this whole drawing without erasing,
You're amazing.
You're amazing, sure. We'll go with amazing. That's what I was going to say. Take your time. You've got time. Again, you can give yourself guidelines, so I want to know where that crease ends, and it is past halfway, about not quite a fourth of the way. And kind of directly up from that crease is a shadow that kind of relates to that lovely crease that continues over. Then within the iris, again, there's a lot of shadows to pay attention to. So I'm going to draw those in while I'm here. You want to include everything within that box before moving on. You don't want to move on just because you've drawn the outlines and you want to be done. Take time to really look at what shape things are in too. Like, I'm drawing her pupil right now, which in my head should be round, but in the picture it's not because of the angle of the eye. So you don't have to draw anything you don't see. I don't see a round pupil here. I'm not going to draw a round pupil. See a bright highlight kind of twinkle in her little cute eye. And then I also see eyelashes. I'm not going to draw the eyelashes right now, and I would encourage you to wait with them as well. Girls, I will tell you, sometimes if you're wearing makeup, your eyelashes tend to look, because they're so dark, if you're wearing mascara, your eyelashes tend to look so dark that they are you almost can't even see one from the next. It looks like a dark shadow. In that case, I would draw them in. I would just draw the outside edge of that shadow that you see. But if you see individual ones like hers are so light and you can't even really see them from where you're sitting, I'm just going to draw in the line where I see it's what I was talking about before. There's a line where your eyeball meets your eyelid, and there's a separate line for your eyelashes. There's a different eyelash line, and that's what I need to draw in so I know where they start. And that's actually where I see a little bit of a shadow. So I'm going to draw that in as well. But you guys you'll be in a little bit different situation. This actually fits a little bit more with with everybody's lower eyelid. A lot of you will see it in that case, similar to this. All right, but again, one box at a time. Think about how long that took me. Let's take a look. It took me 12 minutes and 52 seconds to do that. Take your time.